My name is Myra Nolan, and I am a tenant who was raised in Abilene, Texas, which is the District 71, and my representative is Stan Lammert. The House Bill
Thank you.
32 will drastically erode the rights of Texans who rent and cause chaos in the courts and lead to more evictions, instability, and homelessness in the state of Texas. I have seen the devastating impact that evictions have had on members of my own family and on me as a member and volunteer advocate for the Texas Tenants Union, formerly in Dallas, Texas. I am concerned about homelessness and how easy it is for tenants to fall into it. When I look at this bill, I see how in my own case, I was renting an apartment, and the landlord was mad because I was helping other tenants understand their rights and to get repairs done. I got behind on paying my rent by check, unfortunately, and the check bounced, and I went and got a money order and had the rent to pay it. She still wanted to evict me regardless of us trying to come to an agreement about me staying in the apartment. I had to go and get representation and get advice from the Texas Tenants Union. That's how I became a volunteer advocate for them. I also had sent the money orders, return receipt requested, so she could sign for the money orders, and she still put them back into my apartment and would not take my rent, okay? I'm sorry, okay. So she was determined to get me out of the apartment complex after being there for over 10 months and paying my rent on time. And just because it was retaliation for helping other tenants getting repairs done or asking for repairs. So I was had to go to court, and when the judge was able to hear my side versus what she was saying, she judged in my favor because I was trying to pay my rent, and she was refusing it, and we came to we came to agreement that I could continue to stay there without any type of retaliation from her, the landlord, and be able to continue to be in good faith because I had tried to pay my rent. When you have these things going on of this bill, you know, if people are not able to tell their side of the stories, the landlord would be able to just evict them right away, and that's not right. And I've seen in working with tenants that, you know, it's tenants are fighting every month against evictions that will affect their households, and many Texas families are paying 50 or more and their income towards the rent. Hardworking families are forced to pay higher and higher increases in rent that I've seen, which leaves less and less for feeding their families, buying gas to go to work, and taking their children to school every day. Any emergency or unexpected expense will cause many of us to fall behind on rent and need a grace period to pay. Most other states already provide that. It is important to prevent evictions, not only to help the individual and families facing it, but also for the taxpayers as a whole. It is much cheaper to keep people in housing than it is to climb out of homelessness. Please don't stand in the way of local governments who have passed laws which giving tenants a chance to get caught up in their rent and retain their housing. Please vote against House Bill 32. Thank you.
Thank you,
I'm
Ms.
sorry, I went over time.
That's okay, that's okay. It's Ms. Nolan, right?
Ms. Nolan.
Not Nolan, okay, thank you.
Good afternoon, members of the committee. My name is Jeffrey Okolo. I am a resident and a lifelong tenant who is opposed to House Bill 32. Though it may have been pitched or packaged as being an anti-squatter bill, it is anything but. It leaves many protections that are afforded by law to I and other similarly situated tenants to the landlord's discretion. The two major concerns in this bill for me particularly is the effect on the notice to vacate requirements for the non-payment of rent, as well as the effects that broadening the courts where eviction cases can be filed. First, eliminating the notice to vacate pre-filing requirement for non-rent related disputes puts tenants in a more precarious situation. For example, I currently rent. The lengthy lease I signed covered various rules and responsibilities I need to follow to remain in good standing with my landlord. One of these rules is not to put holes in the walls at all. When I moved in originally and I was setting up internet or doing like small tasks like hanging up curtain rods, I found it necessary to kind of like put holes in the wall. But I discussed with my landlord. We reached an agreement for that, and I moved forward with it. However, as you said earlier, leases exist for a reason. They're in writing for a reason, and my lease says I'm not supposed to put holes in the walls. Now, me and my landlord are on good terms. My landlord is good to me for the most part. But if House Bill 32 is passed, and if me and my landlord maybe fall out in the future, nothing would stop them from, going straight to eviction court and filing an eviction suit because I am in violation of the lease. They wouldn't have an obligation to give me a notice to vacate. They wouldn't have an obligation to give me an opportunity to cure. And this might seem very trivial, but the stakes are anything but. If I am brought to eviction court and I lose, I will have a stain on my record that will follow me and hinder my ability to rent in the future. Additionally, HB 32 not only incentivizes forum shopping by providing litigants with more flexibility in selecting the judges, but it's a logistical nightmare for people who struggle with transportation. I live in Harris County. Harris County is big. And Harris County it's very, very big. And if you allow people to file eviction courts in adjacent precincts, it can create a situation where disputes arising from properties in Baytown, Texas, can be filed and adjudicated in Cypress, Texas. That's an hour drive, 3 hour and 40-minute bus ride, and would raise a lot of issues, logistical problems for tenants. And it's for these reasons that I asked this committee to oppose House Bill 32.
Okay, thank you. Well done.
I testify against HB 32. For so many years, I'm volunteering on the community, talking about housing, and I see how the people are living on the apartment complex. The landlords, they come just over here and say, we need this and this and this. They never lose a penny. First, when the people enter to the apartment complex, on the list is a deposit for the rent. 1 month ahead the rent. And when they promise an apartment so nice, they present one apartment, and I have a lot of pictures and videos. That apartments on the end are infested of rats, roaches, fleas, raccoons, a lot of trash, but they don't pay to go and pick up the trash. No electricity sometimes, no hot water, no refrigerator, no AC, no heater. So what they are asking for on HB 32? They never lose a penny. If they donate a lot of millions of dollars to the political campaigns, why they don't give it to and help the community, the veterans, the kids? Why they come all the time and complain? And another thing is one of the administration on the corporation offices on the apartment complex is a lot of racism and discrimination. And I see by myself. I see that. It's straight. Because if you make a complaint, they don't listen to you by writing, by email, by mail. They don't listen to you, you call 311. Just for that, they evict you. And no matter what, if you pay the rent, you are on time, they don't like you over there. They go in through your apartment, open the door, they see what you have inside. And I'm from Houston, Texas. I'm doing this for years and years. So if you are, if you don't dismiss this bill, who is the ones what they will be suffering? Kids, elderly people, veterans, after they go and defend our country. Is how we pay them. If some kids, some families go homeless, who Joe say that is my fault? Nobody. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, representatives. Thank you for your time today. My name is Chen, and I am a renter from Houston, and a constituent of District 134, Madam Vice Chair Johnson's district. This is my first time testifying at the Capitol. I left my home in Houston at 4 a.m. to come here. So suffice it to say, this is very important to me and my community, many of whom couldn't be here today, working to ensure that they pay for life expenses like rent. If passed, HB 32 would severely weaken due process and renters' protections. I have been a Texas renter for the last 4 years. I'm a hard worker, and I pay my bills. When I first moved into a new apartment in 2023, it was the one time rent had slipped my mind and I paid it late by a few days. A notice to vacate was posted inside my door and illegally declared that I had 24 hours to leave the property. Prior to the notice, I did not receive any other notification through email, call, or website about the overdue charges. When I asked my landlord about this notice terminating the lease and threatening eviction, they called it just a formality and shrugged it off. Something that had shaken my core, that would have harmed my record and left me homeless, meant nothing to them. In reality, their illegal notice was made to bully and intimidate renters, knowing that most renters are vulnerable, would trust their landlord's word, and not realize that their tenant's right was being infringed. Unfortunately, this kind of behavior is not uncommon among landlords. If HB 32 had passed when I lived there, my landlord might have been emboldened to completely skip due process, find some other minor lease violation to file under instead, and wouldn't have posted the notice to vacate at all. I would not have even known that I was being evicted. I would not have been given the right to a hearing. I wouldn't have been given legal representation, and I would not have had the chance to defend myself. HB 32 is unfair and unjustified. It does not have anything to do with squatters and has everything to do with hurting hardworking Texas renters like me. Representatives, I am asking that you please oppose this bill. And Madam Vice Chair Representative Johnson, as your constituent, I am asking that you please oppose House Bill 32. Thank you.
Thank you for having me today. I'm in Houston, Texas. I support a lot of people over eviction processes. I'm not an attorney or anything. I am just a layperson who understands the process. I am totally against House Bill 32 because most of the people that I do represent are all in Section 8 or government housing, where they are constantly basically being threatened with eviction by the property management, landlords, or the companies that own these public housing. And basically, if they say their appliances aren't working, they have a gas leak, they're threatened with evictions. And I firmly believe that with some simple dialogue, people can get these things worked out, but instead they're given eviction notices. They're threatened with eviction notices already. With this House bill that's coming up, it's going to make it a lot easier for them, the management companies, to go ahead and give them eviction notice by going to other jurisdictions to find a judge of their liking to get the people out, even if it's being subsidized by the government. And what I'm just saying is the fact that people don't understand what their rights are. They don't know what their rights are. And it's up to our local and state government to let them know what their rights are, just like it is for the federal government. If this bill passes, and I'm praying that it's not going to, that people are just going to be tossed out, not knowing what their rights are. They can't afford attorneys. There's very little that's out there to help them in these disputes, and having to travel with little or no transportation, people are not going to be able to face the judge as they need, as was stated earlier. I definitely pray upon this panel to go ahead and please let's not pass House Bill 32.
Well, let's thank you for the opportunity, committee, to allow me to speak on behalf of the Houston Tenants Union. We help represent tenants in City of Houston, dealing with all kinds of issues with landlords, everything from false evictions, theft of deposits, poor living conditions, everything. We help tenants to deal with these problems. Hopefully we've been very successful helping tenants get back into housing, also get the money back, put in apartments, or get problems fixed that need to be fixed by landlords, so bad acting landlords. Problem with this bill is it's garbage. It's that simple. It needs to either be discarded or completely, or just something else. It's garbage. It's clearly, it's being written by this apartment association. They're corporate lobbyists, and they're here to write this bill. That's the only reason why it's coming up. It's by all the reasons been stated here today. This is just a conveyor belt to get more people evicted, and it's going to harm more communities. And it's going to cost people more money, and in every way, it's a destructive bill that shouldn't even be considered. Honestly, I don't know why it's even being considered. It's purely about squatters. Squatters are a tiny percent of people renting it. Any kind of issues renting a tiny percent. The vast majority of tenants are good people. They know what they have to do, and they pay the bills on time, and a lot of them have been renting for years. They know what they're doing. But they have to deal with all the time with these landlords that are just bad actors. And we've had to deal with them constantly in Houston. Bad actors that are just, they don't care if people live in deplorable conditions. They don't fix stuff. They're constantly stealing the money. It's just, there's a lot of bad actors, landlords in this state. It's that simple. This bill was to speed up this, create a conveyor belt. More people being evicted, homeless, cause more homeless, and other conditions, all communities all across the state. Just the rationale why it's even being considered is beyond me. That's why it needs to be scrapped or just totally voted down. That's the best thing. The only thing that can happen with this bill is there's nothing constructive about it.
Good afternoon. I'm Justin Lanier. I'm a graduate student at the LBJ School studying public affairs. I'm also a renter and the policy director of the University Tenants Union. And before you ask, yes, my professor said it was okay for me to be here. Miss class.
Good for your professor. You should get class credit for it.
So I decided to go back to school to study policy change because I want to make the world a better place, like I'm sure many of y'all do. And I would ask, with that in mind, that you please stop this bill in its tracks. Do not pursue HB 32. Housing insecurity has a direct negative impact on academic outcomes. And the leading reason for housing insecurity is financial insecurity. Now, of course, we know students are financially insecure overwhelmingly. And not for lack of trying, right? Take me, for example. I worked for 7 years before returning to grad school. I saved what I could. UT has been really good to me. It's given me a fellowship. It's given me student loans. But even with that and working 20 hours a week at an architecture and engineering firm, I'm still dangerously close to eviction. I also have a full course load. I fight for student tenants, try to maintain a social life. But I still feel dangerously close to not having that money to pay rent. And it's because Austin rent is expensive. It's because egg prices are going up. They're only going up higher. It's because I have diabetes. I have to pay for medication. It's because I have a sick pet, and on and on and on. All the reasons, right? And I think about the firm that I work for, right, that serves agencies like TxDOT. It builds highways, it builds bridges. And if the funding for those public agencies dries up, which it very well may, I could be out of a job. And if I'm out of a job, I could be evicted. And if I'm evicted, I could become homeless. And while I have the benefit of understanding tenant law to a degree, many years of experience as a renter, most students do not. So I ask you to think of your own young family members who are going to college for the first time and becoming renters often for the first time. If they accidentally miss their rent payment, or their friend, their college roommate, misses their rent payment, are they going to be out on the streets? Today, we would have the benefit of some time to find a new temporary job, ask friends or family to dig deep. If this bill passes, we would most likely become homeless. And for students, I really implore you to think this risk is especially great. Previous folks who testified mentioned corporate landlords, right? And their predilection to evicting folks. These are the landlords that are providing housing to students. They're folks that are owned by the likes of Blackstone, the same kinds of investors that Governor Abbott wants to rein in. They're landlords like Graystar that have been sued by the DOJ for price fixing. So I ask you on behalf of student renters and all financially insecure Texans, please do not pursue this bill. Thank you.